Hey guys, it's Jennifer. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am coming to you with my Jane Austen July TBR. This is my first Jane Austen July. I have been aware of it for a few years, and last year I fully intended to participate, but July really went off the rails for me in terms of reading and in a lot of other ways. So I didn't participate last year, but I'm really excited to make up for that by participating this year. If you are unaware, Jane Austen July was created by Marissa over at Blatantly Bookish and Katie from Books and Things, and this is a readathon that they host every July for the month of July, and we get to read all about Jane Austen. So there are some prompts that go along with this. I don't know that I'm going to nail them all, but I think I have a few options for nearly everything. So of course, the first thing we have to do is read one of Jane Austen's 6 novels. For this, I have chosen my last Jane Austen novel, which is Persuasion. And in many ways, this feels bittersweet to me. Jane Austen is not one of my favorite writers. And so in many ways, I didn't expect to feel emotional or like I had really achieved something when I reached this last book. But this will be my 3rd Jane Austen novel of the year. I've also read Emma and Sense and Sensibility for the first time this year. And so in many ways, it's been a year that's been peppered by Jane Austen. And so I really do think I might enter a slump when I finish this. I've left Persuasion to the end for a lot of reasons, but the main one is that I think this has the potential to become my favorite Jane Austen. This focuses on a protagonist who is my age. She is 27, Anne Elliot, and so I think it's going to be interesting to read from the perspective of someone who is my age, who is a Jane Austen protagonist. It's kind of exciting. It's also one of her shorter works, so I don't know how I'm going to feel about that, because in many ways I felt like Sense and Sensibility could have been longer, and I've always felt that way about Northanger Abbey just because I love Northanger Abbey and I'm obsessed with it. So I'm really interested to see how I feel about this one, but I'm also nervous because I don't want it to let me down. I don't want my last Jane Austen to be a disappointment to me, and my expectations for this are fairly high, so I'm trying to temper those before I go into this. The hosts are also hosting 2 read-alongs throughout the month, and so for the first half of the month they'll be reading Emma, and the second half of the month they will be reading Pride and Prejudice, if I don't have that reversed. I hope I don't. But I am due for a reread of Pride and Prejudice, so I'm going to optimistically say that I hope to get to this. Pride and Prejudice has just never gotten me. I know that for a lot of people, it was love at first sight, instantaneous obsession. And for me, it really wasn't. I have read Pride and Prejudice twice, once on my own and once in a school setting. And neither of those really agreed with me, but I was in high school for both of those. And I have been out of high school for 10 years now. So I'm really thinking that I'm a different person, I'm at a different point in my life, and I just think that the themes and the love story itself will really connect with me more now than they did when I was a teenager. So the second prompt is to read something by Jane Austen that is not one of her main 6 novels, and for this I am hoping to find a Kindle edition of her letters. I've been hearing a lot about Jane Austen's letters recently, as a matter of fact, in a variety of places, and so I'm kind of curious to read a small collection of those this month. But I'm also tempted for Sanditon, because I watched the Sanditon adaptation earlier this year and I really enjoyed it, but I can understand that in no way, shape, or form was that adaptation accurate to what Jane Austen was probably dreaming of, because there were a lot of wild things that happened in Sanditon that I don't think she ever envisioned. The third prompt is to read a nonfiction work about Jane Austen or about the time that she lived in, and I am on hold at the library for Lucy Worsley's apparently fantastic biography of her, and I really do not think that my hold is going to come in time for me to read it this month. But I am fine with it rolling over into August and kind of being an Austen August. I've heard so many good things about Lucy Worsley in general. I really do feel like I'm going to love this, and hopefully if I do, I have found somebody who is going to be a new favorite nonfiction writer, because I know she also has a really well-received biography of Queen Victoria. So I'm looking forward to trying her, even if it doesn't necessarily wind up being in Jane Austen July. So the fourth prompt is to read a retelling of a Jane Austen novel. And for this, I have chosen The Other Bennet Sister by Janice Hadlow. I have heard nothing but good things about this ever since it came out early this spring. I know a lot of people have loved it. It is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice that focuses on Mary Bennet. And so I'm really intrigued by this, especially given how large it is. As far as I can recall, I have never read a retelling of a Jane Austen work that was actually with the real characters taking place during the timeline of the novel. So this will be a first for me, and I've heard such amazing things about it that I really do feel like I'm going to love this. Adjacent to that, I would also like to read Miss Austen by Gill Hornby. This is another that I have heard nothing but good things about this year, but this is about Jane Austen's sister Cassandra. So this is not technically a retelling of her novel, but it is Jane Austen adjacent, so I think it counts. This focuses on Cassandra, who was Jane Austen's sister, and I think later in her life, she is going to make the decision about Jane Austen's letters. Cassandra has kind of a bad rap nowadays, mostly because she apparently made the choice to burn a large amount of Jane Austen's letters. And so I think this book does a lot to humanize her and make you understand that decision and why things were very different in Jane Austen's day to even when perhaps Charles Dickens was writing, and Charles Dickens was a far more public and popular figure than Jane Austen. And so maybe her family did not want details of her private life known widely. And so I think this novel explores that, and I've heard it does it quite brilliantly. So I'm really looking forward to trying this month. Okay, the fifth prompt is to read a work by a contemporary of Jane Austen. And I have so many options here because I am really obsessed right now with romanticism and just generally the early 1800s, but I have a few options from a little bit earlier as well. My main goal this month is going to be to read an Anne Radcliffe. I have chosen The Mysteries of Udolpho because I think I might like it more than Romance of the Forest, but Romance of the Forest is shorter and I also own that. So I'm tempted to maybe pick that up, but The Mysteries of Udolpho is an early Gothic novel that is set in Italy in a crumbling castle, if I'm not mistaken, with a girl and her evil uncle. And Anne Radcliffe is kind of spoofed in Northanger Abbey. I remember her being talked about quite a bit, and I think The Mysteries of Udolpho is really the title that was mentioned most. So I want to commit to The Mysteries of Udolpho. So this is one of my big goals of the month. Also as an option, I have Evelina by Frances Burney. I'm excited about this, but I'm also apprehensive. I'm mainly excited because this is an epistolary novel, and so it's written in letters and diary format throughout. I am so pumped about that, but I just have a feeling about it. I just have a feeling about Fanny Burney, and I don't know that her writing is going to agree with me. So I wanted to try this before I moved on to, is it Cecilia? Is that her other big novel that I think is bigger than this? So I really wanted to try something shorter, but I'm so disappointed in this edition. I got this edition used and it's annotated. Somebody annotated it before me, and I thought that didn't bother me, but it really does, because a lot of her annotations were striking through the text or just writing along the side something that really had nothing to do with the book. And so I'm kind of irritated by that. Normally I don't mind if there are annotations in a book before I get to it, but I kind of want them to be annotations that I would have made or that I think are going to help me in the reading process. It's always nice to get a book that's been annotated by somebody who was smarter than you and who knew the themes the author was playing with. But this was just odd to me. I might get an ebook copy of this, but I'm really excited to finally try Frances Burney. And something I know I will get to is some of Percy Shelley's poetry. This collection that I have is not his complete works. I kind of thought it was, so in some ways I'm disappointed, but it's most of his works. It is the major works, and it's done chronologically. So this first half here is from really essentially when Jane Austen lived, going up to the end of Percy Shelley's life. Right now I'm reading Queen Mab, but I will certainly have a few other shorter poems that I can read here and there that will also immerse me in the time period of Jane Austen. And then we have some viewing challenges. So my main goal in terms of watching anything is I really want to see the Northanger Abbey film with J.J. Field in it, because he's just dreamy. He is so dreamy. So that's my ultimate goal, but I might try the Emma miniseries. When I read Emma back in March and I did my reading vlog, a lot of people recommended to me the miniseries with Romola Garai, and so I'm looking forward to trying that as well. If you are participating in Jane Austen July, I would love to know what your TBR is down below, but that's going to be all from me today. I hope you're all having a great week. Happy reading. Goodbye.